Yes. Exactly.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Thursday, June 9th, 2022. Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Councilor Kent.
Here.
Councilor Giannettino.
Here.
Councilor Cuddy.
Here.
Councilor Locastro.
Here.
Mayor Quill.
Here. Would you please join us? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you remain standing for a moment of silent prayer reflection. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Clerk, public announcements, if any?
Yes, Mayor, we do have a few announcements this evening. Next week, here at the city, we have some public meetings. On Monday night, we will have the monthly meeting of the Auburn Civil Service Commission. That's on June 13th. That starts at, I believe, 6 p.m. 6:30 p.m. and that'll be on the third floor conference room here at Memorial City Hall, 24 South Street. And then we have on Tuesday, June 14th, 2022 at 7 p.m. the Historic Resources Review Board's monthly meeting. That meeting will be held here in Council Chambers, 24 South Street in Auburn. And then on Wednesday at 9 a.m. in the morning, the Nuisance Abatement Committee. That meeting will be held here in Council Chambers, 9 a.m. That morning. And then we have a couple of announcements for our events and activities coming up in the City Parks Department. The first concert of the season is up on the screen there tomorrow night, Friday, June 10th, 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. on top of the downtown parking garage will be the band The Arcade. They're an 80s cover band. And that'll be, looks like the weather's gonna cooperate. That'll be tomorrow night up at the parking garage. And then tomorrow afternoon at the Equal Rights Heritage Center, we have a dedication ceremony for 2 historical markers that'll be placed in Auburn, New York for the National Votes for Women Trail. That's an open to the public event. And then next weekend, the 17th, 18th in Auburn will be Juneteenth celebration, and complete information about the Juneteenth celebration is on the city's website, County Tourism's website, and lots of activities on the weekend of the 18th, 17th, and 18th for Juneteenth. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. No presentations or proclamations, no word?
None this evening.
Public to be heard.
At this point in time, we will open the public to be heard portion of the council meeting. Residents are asked to state their name and address for the record. Please keep remarks to 3 minutes or less, and please observe commonly accepted rules of courtesy and decorum.
Thank you. At this time, is there anyone desiring to be heard? Please. Either podium, please.
Good evening. Alicia Persino, Wilbur Avenue. I'm here actually for 2 separate disparate items that concern me. One is for Cavalry Food Pantry. The shelves are looking mighty bare, and it's a request for anyone that can to donate either money, food items, whatever. Some parts of the shelves are quite filled, but we've had quite a large number of people that hadn't previously been coming to the pantry who now need help with food items. All right. Any donations would be appreciated. Second item that I have is a program that you used to sponsor, the RSVP program. And with that, you brought together many senior citizens that took time to knit items, particularly mittens, scarves, and hats for winter. And every fall we provided all the children at Genesee and some of the other schools as well hat, mittens, and a scarf before winter. Well, that was needless to say. That was over 600 for one school, and 400 or 500 mittens and items for at least another school. And the third place would be they would bring it to various places that provided Christmas gifts for families. In doing away with that program, you have senior citizens that could use their time, again, to knit and contribute things to the community. And I remember many children saying, gee, can my mother have a hat too? She doesn't have one. And that's, I think, a tremendous loss to the benefit of people that need help in this community. So I'm asking, see if there's a way that we could work something similar to that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else desiring to be heard? No one else? Very well, we'll have a second public to be heard near the end of the meeting. So, approval of meeting minutes from May 19th is available. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Giannettino, seconded by Councilor Locastro. Discussion, correction, deletions. Call the roll. Please call the roll.
Councilor Kent.
Yes.
Councilor Giannettino.
Aye.
Councilor Cuddy.
Yes.
Councilor Locastro.
Yes.
Mayor Quill.
Aye.
Carried.
Remainder will be on next week's agenda. Thank you. Mr. Diger, City Manager's report, please.
Mayor, I don't have an awful lot today. Myself and Jenny Haynes from our planning department and Stephanie DeVito from the BID have spent the last 2 days in Syracuse at the NICOM conference, which focused at this point on downtown redevelopment and downtown bids, as well as vacant properties. So some good information there. Our Assistant Corporation Counsel, Nate Garland, actually presented this morning on the actual application of the New York State zombie legislation and how that's been working out here. So that was good. Good information, good networking, and an opportunity to kind of see where we are compared to other communities in New York State. And I guess somewhat selfishly, yet humbly, say that we're in pretty good shape. We're for the shape we're in. All the cities across New York State and the villages are all dealing with the same types of issues, and we seem to be, if not in the lead, very close to the lead of trying new things to tackle some of these difficult problems of vacant buildings, code enforcement, blight, things like that. So it's good to share experiences, but overall good experience.
Thank you. Councilors, anyone? Roll. Folks weren't all here last week when we voted on the budget. That was an exciting meeting, and so we have enough money to run another year thanks to a great staff. So we'll move along to Nick's Ride for Friends with Ashley Mensch. Did I say it right or close?
You did.
Please, Executive Director. Welcome.
Thank you. Does this it has the PowerPoint that we sent in preloaded possibly?
I'll be right.
Looking to the clerk.
I'll be right over.
thank you on behalf of Nick's Ride for Friends for allowing our organization to come and present here tonight to you all. I am somebody who is deeply committed to helping individuals, families, and communities that struggle with substance use disorders. I am both angered and saddened by how truly broken traditional treatment systems are. Systems of care which preach to be client-centered, all while being tethered to regulations which prevent its application. Systems of care which hover between a 10 and 50% success rate seems pretty dismal, especially when considering that a human life is at the other end of it. I have spent the last decade of my life entrenched in the front lines of more traditional systems of care, from direct service provision to administrative oversight. This is what I have learned. These systems of care fail those who entrust their lives to their prescribed treatment more than they succeed. These systems of care are expensive at a disproportionate rate to their success. A success on paper does not equate to a success in real life. Dedicated staff whom enter the field with passion and purpose over time are dismantled and demoralized by regulations which far outweigh their benefit. Individuals seeking substance use disorder treatment quickly learn that they have become a number in a much larger system which fails to address the core issues that led to their problematic behaviors. These systems of care and the staff responsible for delivering treatment are overwhelmed with the triplication of record-keeping tasks. They are compensated marginally for their efforts, and they tiptoe their talent around the lurking fear of a Justice Center investigation. After years of dancing around red tape of regulation in an attempt to save lives, an opportunity presented itself wherein I could quit dancing, really stop wasting time, and actually help people struggling with substance use disorders without barriers preventing client-centered care. Nick's Ride for Friends is an organization that offers peer support services, which is freestanding and unbound. Nick's Ride, a local not-for-profit, perfectly illustrates grassroots organizing at its core. How many more people have to lose their lives to premature death, and how many more people need to be incarcerated for a medical disease before we as a community start asking questions needed to facilitate social change that are equitable for individuals who by and large are victims of a failed war on drugs. Our presentations recently have reviewed our monthly service delivery data, which we have provided in the folders that were passed out ahead of time. But tonight, we want to really tell the story that the numbers don't. The numbers can convey the general conception of the work we do at Nick's Ride, ranging from helping people getting into treatment, to transporting them to treatment, to one-on-one peer sessions, accessing resources available in the community, and linking them to same-day medications for opiate use disorder, to name some. Tonight we are here to share some of the real stories that ordinarily become lost in the numbers. It is my pleasure to introduce to the council tonight Randy Smith, one of our certified peer recovery advocates.
My name's Randy Smith. I'm a peer advocate at Nick's Ride, and I'm also in recovery. Ashley asked me to share my story, how we got here. In recovery, we call that story our experience, our strength, and our hope. My favorite part of that part is the hope. Back in August of 2020, when I started my journey, I didn't really have a lot of hope. You know, coming off, I had a long time, 17 years of sobriety, you know, and I did a lot of cool things during that time. You know, I got married, I became a father of 3 amazing children. I became a professional fighter, where I fought all over the world. I opened up a couple of gyms, you know, and I was pretty successful in a lot of ways. You know, my world it changed when my youngest son, 6 years ago, he come down with bacterial meningitis, and we were in the hospital for like 6 months. Me and my wife and my 2 other kids at the time, we lived at the Ronald McDonald House, and he had 2 brain surgeries, and I got scared, and for the first time in my life, I really experienced how it was to be completely powerless. I watched him lay on machines that would breathe for him, tubes in his mouth, and I really, like, the scariest time of my life, right? Like, being a fighter, right? Like, I really didn't know what to do. I couldn't protect him, and I felt almost useless, and I turned to the one thing that I knew, right? I picked up again. And, because it gave me that instant gratification when I felt okay, I felt good. And then in a short time, well, it seemed like a short time, but it was a 5-year period, I lost everything, my wife left me. I lost my house. I lost my gym. My life come crashing down, And during this time, I also, towards the end of my fight career, I got hooked on opiates and on pills from an injury from fighting. I was hurt. I was taking it the right way, and then before you know it, I was taking it every day, and a lot of it. And I lost it all, and I was at the darkest time of my life, and I really didn't know how to go on. I felt like I couldn't pick myself up. This is one time I got knocked down. I couldn't beat the count. I felt, So after months and months of like reaching out for help and some contact with Nick's Ride, even with Liberty Resources, and connecting me with Nick's Ride, and going to detox and getting out and going to one rehab after another. I was at my lowest point, and I just didn't think I could do it no more. And I decided, on August 23rd of 2020, that I was going to end my life. That easy way out, right? Like, so I called the sheriff's department. I lived in Locke, New York, and I called the sheriff's department, told them I had a gun and I was going to end my life. And so the cops responded to the scene, and I showed the barrel of the gun out the door. And what my plan was to run out onto the porch and get shot up, And so I did that. I ran out onto the porch, and nothing happened, right? So I ran back inside, and I was like, oh, crap, that didn't go the way I planned, And now what am I going to do, right? Like, I look around, there's all these cops here, and my plan wasn't really thought out too well, right? The gun I talk about was really a BB gun, and I didn't even have no BBs, and the BB gun was pink. So I got taken into custody that day, and it seemed like the darkest time of my life, right? Like, I didn't know how to fight this fight. I got taken to the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's, and that's the jail, and that's really where my journey began. I was only in there for a day, and I met with Brian in one of the meeting rooms, and he knew who I was a little bit, from when I had my gym before. I ran a recovery program there, combat recovery. And I trained a lot of police officers, and so he come in and, oh, my bad. So he come in and he gave me some hope, and he told me that if I turned it around, like, maybe I could help on this end of things. And like, when you're at the bottom, like, a little hope goes a long, long ways, And from there, I went to a rehab in PA. I was there for 60 days, and really I look like that, like almost like a fight, right? Like, the rehab and the jail was kind of like my training camp. I'd gone away a lot of times for a training camp to prepare for a fight. 'Cause that's what this really is, right? It's the fight, but I'm fighting for my life. And from there I came to Grace House, and Grace House in Auburn, and that's when the fight really began. I was out there. I had to make decisions. I had a lot of goals. I wanted my kids back. I wanted to be part of my kids' life. I always say this all the time. There's a difference between being a father and being a dad, right? A father is, anybody can be a father. Being a dad is having that personal relationship. And when times get tough, I look back on August 23rd when, in that moment, I was prepared. to end my life. I was prepared to take my kid's father before he had the opportunity to become their dad. And when things get really tough, during this last 2 years, I look back at that, right? And it makes me want to fight harder. Not harder, but smarter, right? Like, sometimes we got to take the emotion out of the fight. Like any fighter, when they're fighting out of emotion, they leave themselves open to get hit more, right? So I had to learn new ways how to do that. And that's when this community come into play, right? That's when Nick's Ride, I started volunteering here early on, going down to Nick's Ride. I started off cleaning the bathrooms and sweeping the floor, and I learned early on, like, to keep it, you really got to give it away, and I work there now. I've been there for over a year, and the very chair that I was handcuffed to when I took it to Nick's Ride at one time is in my office today, and I look around this community, and what they did is so many agencies that I worked with, whether it be the jail or whether it be the outpatient, CHAD, Cuyahoga County Mental Health, Cuyahoga County Jail, the Grace House, right? Like, they gave me the tools that I needed to survive. Not only to survive, they taught me how to thrive. Because nobody jumped in the water when I was drowning. They did the best thing that anybody's ever done for me. They taught me how to swim. And today at Nick's Ride, I get the opportunity every day, to give on what was given to me. I like to say a second chance, but I had a lot more than 2 chances, so another chance, right? Another chance, because you never know, like, how many times it takes to get it, right? Like, this could be the one, and that's what we work with down there. You just keep on coming back. You keep on doing the next right thing. And you never know when they're going to get it. And today I get the honor and the privilege to work with people. A lot of these guys that I work with, my gosh, they did a lot for me. They did a lot for me. They still do. And I use some of my past experience to help people today. We have a little gym that we run down there. We combat recovery. We do activities. We show people that they can have fun in recovery. And we do a lot. We help people get into treatment. And every single day, it's a blessing to go to work, because I'm helping people the same way that was done for me. I've been doing a lot of speaking lately, and I get nervous every time. I never really spoke on this platform before, so usually when I'm in front of a crowd, it's almost trying to hit me, right? So get a little bit nervous. The last time a lot of times when I speak on a platform like this, it's usually with a lawyer and I'm handcuffed, So today's a good day to be sober. Thank you for letting me share my experience, my strength, and hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy, for coming up here and sharing your story again. Next, we have Mary Giannoni. We call her our Mother Mary. She is our one and only female peer. So you'll notice some remarkable numbers in the folders and in terms of how many folks they work with, how many sessions they spend a month, and to think that none of them are full-time is remarkable. So without further ado, here's Mary Giannoni.
Hi guys, my name is Mary Giannoni, and I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I'm the peer advocate in Cuyahoga County. Right now I'm the only female peer in Cuyahoga County. And so part of my, if you live in Auburn, probably you know my story, right? Alcohol ruined my life, and I got in a lot of trouble. And I will say now that getting in that trouble was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And so what happened is I got into trouble, and I was just all of a sudden thrust into the system. I was homeless. I had no food, I had no money, I had no car insurance, or I didn't have a car, sorry, I got a DWI. Sorry, little joke there. Not a joke though. So anyway, I had nothing. I had no way to get food, and I was standing in DSS. and I had to figure out how to do it. And DSS is really overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed now more than it ever was. So I clawed my way through DSS. I got myself in treatment. I got myself in a homeless shelter and did all the things I needed to do and started to work a program of recovery. And so what I decided is once I had some time under my belt that I felt strong in my sobriety, I had to figure out a way to give back to what was given to me. Like Randy said, well, what we do is recovering alcoholics and addicts. Once we work recovery, we give it away. That's how they say we keep it, and I believe it to be true. So I started working in the field, and peer advocacy at that time was pretty new. So I was asked if I wanted to become a peer advocate or get a KSAC. Where I was working was willing to pay for either. And so the reason I chose peer advocacy is we have this freedom that other people don't, and Ashley touched upon that. We get to share our story. We get to get what I call down and dirty with the clients, and that's what we do on a daily basis. And so what happened is once I started working in the field, particularly during COVID, and since we've been coming out of COVID, is I noticed a really scary trend that a vast majority of the people that were coming in front of us were females. I mean, and what happens with females is they bring a whole lot of other things to the table. They bring that mom guilt and shame and stigma. They're the caretakers, and during COVID they were trying to keep their kids in school, be at home, and it's really difficult because like me, they had no idea, and they still have no idea how to navigate the system. So that's what I decided I wanted to do, and that's what I do. And so Monica shared at the last presentation here about the staggering numbers for women, that the last, the suicides and the overdoses, the deaths are becoming primarily women. And I will tell you, those statistics don't even come close to what really is, because I sit in front of women on a daily basis, and they tell me how they've tried to kill themselves. Well, I've had people say to me, I overdosed and I really had hoped I was gonna die because this is really hard. I had to go to the hospital today. There's 2 women up there. One is a suicide attempt and one is an overdose attempt through alcohol. Neither one of those will be reported in the statistics. So there's a great need for more peers in the community, and there's a great need for sustainability of something like Nick's Ride, because we can get it done. We're, like Ashley said, we're not under the confines of rules and regulations. We can, for example, we might have someone come out of treatment and they come right to us, and we link them to clothing, we link them to food, we link them to, we take them to DSS, we fill out the homeless paperwork with them. And that's stuff that I didn't have. I didn't have a peer advocate when I was trying to figure out the system. And so through that, doing that, we've had, the community resources come to us for help. Like DSS will call when they have somebody there, and they will say, can Doug come pick them up and take them to you, because we need to link them to services. Or we'll have the police department bring someone to Nick's Ride that would typically be put in jail for a crime, and instead they bring them to us and we can link them to services. And the same with the sheriff's department. They will call if there's an overdose, and we can go with them. So the need is huge, and obviously the need far outweighs the resources we have right now. And so I'm gonna close with an example of what Next Ride can do, because I'm not doing it justice. I'm not doing what we do justice. So I'll go back to the women. They have that guilt and the shame, right? They need help. They're not going to get it. So I was recently working with a woman who has a lot of legals and couldn't stop using, right? She was unable to stop her use. So the legal system was going to eventually come down on her because she's on all kinds of restrictions. And the deal was CPS, if they had found out what was going on, would probably come in and have taken her children away. So we at Next Ride I met with the mom. She agreed to go to inpatient, and what we did is we helped secure the child care services for her, so that she knew that the kids were safe and CPS wasn't going to come and take them away, and that was all facilitated through us. We transported her to rehab. I mean, I can say today that she successfully completed rehab, and one of our peers brought her back to her children. Like, that doesn't happen in traditional settings, and that's what we're able to do. But we're only able to do it if we have the resources to do it, and obviously we're limited on those for what we do. And so, you know, we do those things. We meet people where they're at. We're able to sit with them and hold their hand. And, you know, Randy alluded to some people come back again and again. Sure they do. I was a chronic relapser. I, again and again, went out and I drank. And you know what? Nobody gave up on me. Nobody gave up on me. And so what we do at Nick's Ride, we don't give up either. But we need to be sustainable, and it's really difficult. So I hope you guys liked our presentation, and we would encourage you to, I know Jimmy's been down there, and Ginny, if anybody wants to come and visit Nick's Ride, it's a really great place. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mary. So this past week, I had the privilege of meeting with some of the women who work with a CASA program over at Cuga Counseling, and they were talking about the program. And for those of you who don't know in the audience and council, CASA stands for Children Affected by Substance Abuse. They've been nationally recognized as victims. And so they've put in a request, a federal grant request for funding to help not just children, but the entire family system, which I think is a big piece that we're missing. So speaking from experience of working at the Grace House for many years, you know, when it came time for somebody to successfully discharge, and we would be talking about discharge from the point of admission, they would tell us maybe that they wanted to go back home. It was always a red flag for me and a concern, because here is a person that's working on growing and changing and undoing all the things that kind of cause them so much strife and suffering. And then for them to return to the same environment to think that the family's also working on themselves would be remiss, right? And it's like the perfect storm. And time again, those set of circumstances didn't lead to success. So I was really intrigued by listening about this opportunity, and they shared this like staggering fact that 97% of indicated removals with CPS involve a parent or a custodian who had a substance use disorder. And I just couldn't help but think, like, you know, what is the percentage of folks in our prison system that have a substance use disorder? And my gosh, why is this population of folks so discriminated against in 2022? And it's just something to think about, because I've met plenty of people that, you know, and I'm not here to cast a stone by any stretch, that in the absence of a substance use disorder, maybe have some questionable parenting techniques, but it's very convenient, you know, to me, that it's 97% of folks with a substance use disorder. And for somebody to recover, if you take their heart away, it's impossible, right? So I think we're on the precipice of great change. You know, how do we make change with government when government's so big and we're so small? Well, we have to start at the local level. And there's a lot of power in this room and influence, and we hope you hear what we're saying, that being that, you know, we care for everybody regardless of the condition. They have a safe refuge at Nick's Ride. If you haven't been down, please come down, we'll give you a tour. It's an amazing building and an amazing privilege to be in a position to work with these amazing people who help everyone every day, no matter what. Thank you so much for having us tonight.
Randy, you're a good-sized man. I'd hate to jump in the ring with you. I can run awful fast, trust me. So. But you and Mary and all of your friends there, it takes a lot of nerve to get up in front of a bunch of strangers. You okay? Okay. All right. To get up in front of a bunch of strangers and bare your soul. So I'm very happy you're here today. I'm proud of you. Don't give up. Never give up. I doubt that you will. And thanks for being a citizen of Auburn. Thank you. Councilor? Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor. Ashley, your entire team, thank you for taking the time to come here tonight. Randy, Mary, I've obviously heard your stories before. They never get old, because we need to be reminded that the problem isn't going away. The problem still exists, and that there's people in this community who are fighting to save people's lives. Ashley, I couldn't agree with you more. We have tremendous power at the local level. We have a voice. And we need to continue to use that voice to advocate for Nick's Ride, for your entire team, for the people of this community. You know, when we, as a city organization, chose to put Nick's Ride in the DRI to the tune of $900,000, we were criticized for it. But we believed in it, and we fought to keep it in there. And I hope that some of those people who were critical of what we did are watching tonight, and they understand why we did what we did. This morning I was riding my bike before work, and I was watching the news. You think I'd learned not to watch the news, but I continue to watch the news. And there were two back-to-back stories. One was about gun violence in this country and how we're approaching 300 mass murders, and it's only June. And the second story was about addiction and death from addiction in this overdoses in this country. And I'll be honest, I watched it and I was damn disillusioned. I was being very cynical in my own mind. All day long I thought, what is wrong with this country? We've lost our way, and how do we fix it? Hearing the two of you speak tonight gives me that hope. Randy, you used the word hope. And I just can't underscore how important that is to keep that hope, even when we get cynical and we realize it's broken. We do have some power to help fix that. I do have a question for you, if you don't mind, if you could come back to the podium. You mentioned the need for additional peers, specifically female peers. Having looked at the data and spoken with you multiple times, I couldn't agree with you more. We need 10 more Marys.
Mary also agrees.
Yes.
What is the cost of a peer? What is the financial cost of a peer? If you could give us just a rough estimate.
So a regional fair market price for a salary position for a peer is about $40,000, between 40 and probably 43 with fringe. And right now, that's another thing we're working to build into the structure of our organization is benefits, right? So like, how do you appreciate your staff? You offer them paid time off so they can take care of themselves. You know, I find it really just like they are a remarkable group of people. So finding the right people is one of the precarious answer or questions that we have to answer to find the right person, because in early recovery we tell people avoid people, places, and things. And then we tell our peers to go jump in the ring of fire, and we need to make sure that if they need to take a mental health day because it taps into their own trauma, because it's very close to their own experience, we can do that. So there's a lot of things as we build and grow, but certainly more peers is essential, because I think we're just skimming the surface, right? And we're not like advertising in a huge marketing campaign like what we do and where we are, because I would be afraid of how many people would come through the doors and not having the ability to actually meet the need. But over time, our plans are to grow. So I hope that helps answer the question.
It does. And the reason I asked that, and we've talked about this one-on-one, we've talked about it publicly. There is a pot of money from the American Rescue Plan that we will be making available to not-for-profits to apply for. So I just wanted a general idea of what it would cost for a peer. And obviously that's a limited amount of money that we have. That's a one-time shot. Can you talk a little bit about what the plans are long-term for sustainability for Nick's Ride?
I can. So we have a sustainability plan which was built into 13 Chapel Street. So our second floor is, I believe, and I might be off by a few numbers, but it's like 2,700 square feet on the second floor. And right now we're holding out for a potential outfit that we should know within the next couple weeks if they're going to choose to come into our location. We're hoping they do. We think it's the right space for this outfit. We think we complement their efforts. So that's part of it. If they don't come, we're going to strategize on who we might want to have come into the building, because instead of having 7 different leases, we'd have one, which would be ideal, and it would be somebody that would be, if they came into this space, they would be there for a long period of time. The other piece is looking towards billing Medicaid for peer empowerment services through CORE, which was formerly Home and Community-Based Services, where peers can go out into the community and at 15 minutes being a unit of service, pending HARP eligibility, and if I'm putting folks to sleep, I'm sorry, I'll stop with the acronym soon, is reimbursed at $22. So when you look at our face-to-face sessions, you know, 1 month we had, I think it was 222 my first full month there. And that's a conservative estimate because I'm just gonna call that 1 unit of service, but really they could have spent an hour or an hour and a half with somebody. And you can bill, I believe, up to 4 units a day per eligible person. So that actually could be a low number, but that will also generate revenue, you know? And then there's this special part about Nick's Ride that we can't overlook people's willingness to donate in something that is truly good and about change that really does serve humanity, right? And so there's a lot of generosity that unfolds at Nick's Ride. So I think that will always be part of it, you know? So there's 3 things. The second floor, we're gonna rent out the space. We're eventually gonna figure out a way to bill for the services because right now everything is free. We'll always have some contingency that regardless of ability to pay, we will serve the person with our peer services. Because it's not about the money, it's about doing the right thing for the community, you know, and then the money will come, and it's not about that. So that's not the motivating factor, but certainly we want to sustain the operation as it is right now and grow to meet the need of the community. So that's the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions while I'm up here? I'm up. It takes me a minute to learn after.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is Quill Community Health Network, Sherry Weiss.
Is it on the desktop? Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor, members of the community. My name is Dr. Sherry Weiss. I'm the executive director for the Quill Community Health Network. And with me is Nicole G., who is Street Outreach and Advocacy Coordinator. The Quill Community Health Network provides health and wellness programs and services to the county. We focus all of our work on the social determinants of health, and it's kind of how we ended up here. About a year ago, I'm thinking, we've been attending the housing task force, the homeless housing task force, and I was speaking with Renee and I mentioned street outreach because in Auburn, there's a homeless issue. Homelessness is often referred to as the invisible population. It's the things people either don't see or don't want to see. And we knew, we had seen it, we knew there were issues with folks struggling to find housing, to find work, to find stability. The -- social determinant of health is housing. After that, it's access to health care, food, a safe environment, financial security, and all those things fall into the scope of wellness and health. And when I spoke with Renee and asked if Auburn and Quill had a street outreach program, she said, oh, it's something we've been wanting to do for a long time, but no one seems to have the capacity to do it. And in my previous work, I've overseen street outreach programs for years, and I felt very compelled knowing that the issue was here and there was a really big gap between and we have amazing service providers in here, and great respect to Nick's Ride and so many community partners and resources. This is a tremendous community, and actually the most collaborative community I've ever worked with in 30 years of this kind of work. So we knew that we could be an organization that could hopefully fill this gap. When folks are homeless and they're not sheltered, or if they're in a homeless shelter, there's a lot of things that go on. In fact, I think Mary made a great, said, she had to go navigate DSS all by herself. And that is a very challenging system to navigate, both for those who are trying to access those services and those who are trying to provide the services. And a lot of times it was like, oh, wouldn't it be great if there was just somebody who could help navigate through this? And that, and then there's access to food and finding a job and getting clothes and, all those things that most of us maybe kind of take for granted because it's something that a lot of us are able to do every day. So when I approached Renee, we decided to take a go of it, and the city very generously agreed to go half on a street outreach and advocacy program, and the county went in for the other half, because we really didn't know, like, is it a city of Auburn? Is that where it's focused? Is it more of the county? So we proposed a pilot program, and it was accepted, and then we did our search, and I found a rock star by the name of Nicole G. And I wish I put up a slide of social determinants of health, but you'll figure out very quickly that I am not the brains of this operation. We started doing this program in the 1st of October of 2021, and Nicole came right on board. We're very fortunate. One of the things we didn't have to worry about was somebody getting up to speed. Nicole knows this community. She has a ton of connections, and she also understands the population that we're working with. And so we began our journey in trying to collaborate with a lot of community partners, working with DSS, working with Chapel House, working with the Rescue Mission. Who am I missing? CAP, all of our various community partners, and letting them know that Nicole was available to assist those, not only who were homeless, but those who were at risk of homelessness, because there's that gap of people who are struggling with their landlord and having a difficult time with being able to communicate and find a solution. Also, if they're being threatened with eviction. Also, at that point, we had the ERAP program, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and so helping to try to educate landlords and tenants about what that program is, what it could do, and how it worked, and that was part of the rationale behind this program. And then Nicole kind of stepped into it and discovered what the problem really looks like, and hopefully, and has found some solutions, I think. We're going to go right into this. I'm going to let you.
So these are some pictures of a homeless encampment that we have behind Walmart. I was joined with 2 gentlemen from Chapel House. I go on some of the compliance checks with them just to meet other clients that are homeless, being housed through DSS and things like that, just to see if there's anything that they need, if they need to, a referral for certain places and things like that. But this was a camp that just before winter hit, we took these photos, and then they had a little bit of a fire, but it didn't cause any damage except for one spot. But when we went just before winter, there was 5 tents. There's now 10 back there in total.
This is the video.
This is just a short little video of how this specific one is set up inside their tent that they have for their shelter. If it'll play.
And it doesn't want to play.
Okay. Well, it was just a little video of inside, kind of how they have it set up with their, containers with their clothing, and there was a BB gun in one of them.
So one of the things we wanted to do was really carefully collect enough data information to really understand who is it we're serving, what were the kinds of services that we could provide. We have a homeless shelter, we have lots of services in Auburn. However, those services always have a lot of restrictions. They don't have the flexibility. They can't spend the time that it takes to work with someone to really get them to navigate through everything. What we were trying to be is just the bridge. We're the bridge between all that. We can, Nicole can spend time filling out applications, making phone calls, going around and asking various agencies who have offered, and everyone has very generously offered services, assistance. Hey, we have boots, we have clothes. And she can coordinate all that and help that person. That's something that's really challenging for one person, especially most who don't have any access to transportation. And as we know, this is a pretty broad geographical area. So when we started looking at the demographics and we collect very careful data, we found that most of the people that were being assisted were between the ages of 19 to 64. I dare say that might cover a lot of us in this room. When you think about it, people sometimes have asked me over the years, well, what does a homeless person look like? And my answer is always look in the mirror and imagine yourself 2 paychecks from now, if you're lucky. Because that is how close so many of us are to this issue. And not every community is as fortunate to have a program that will assist. So far, the demographics that were served at the time, this was as of May, and already there are several more. 21 single men, 19 single women, and families. We have homeless families in Auburn, and probably that's the biggest challenge, because families are hard to house, they're hard to serve, and families are not, they come in every possible iteration, every possible form. So traditional families and non-traditional families, and all of those deserve the same dignity and respect and opportunities that we all want and try to have in our community. The majority of folks are Caucasian, but we have some African American, some Hispanic clients. The income for these folks it falls under the extremely low poverty level, 30%. And one of the things we have discovered is that the majority of the folks are right here in Auburn. And in fact, in speaking with Kristen Bianco from DSS, they are, they're not only, they're actually, it's not like they're coming from outside areas. That's a favorite thing people like to do, is say, oh, well, they're busing them in, and we don't really have the homeless program. It's just that they're all sent here. The majority of the folks are actually citizens of Auburn. And for whatever reason, bad choices, bad situations, unfortunate loss of income, whatever has happened, they are now in this position. So what are the kinds of things Nicole does? Why don't you take that one?
All right. So basically, I just wanted to touch back on those numbers really quickly. Those numbers are who I've specifically, only me, have helped, which today the number is 52, because I had 2 more added today. Some do have received services through DSS, but majority of them are on the street right now currently. So some of the things that I can do that is a little different than DSS is that I can actually go to them, so they're not having to come into our facility, so it makes it a little bit easier. I don't transport or anything, but I do go to them. We can work on, the referrals for the Medicaid, SNAP, emergency housing if they need it. I've met people down at DSS because they were reluctant to go in the middle of winter, and I would walk them through the process if I was able to. I do a lot of the referrals. If somebody needs food, I'll give them the CAT number so they can have it delivered if they don't have the access to that to be able to get there. If somebody comes to me and they're like, I have an addiction, I've got this, then I'm gonna refer them to the next ride. So I have a ton of things that I keep in this binder, so when I'm seeing clients, it's got everything from how to get a free cell phone, how to get childcare, expenses paid when you're living in the hotel and you want to work, and things like that. And my biggest thing is I help with job searching, employment. I go to the jail 1 to 2 times a week, and I will meet with inmates that are getting ready to be released. And the idea is for them to have a job before they leave that facility, so they have something to walk out and look into rather than going back to the lifestyle that may have brought them there to begin with.
I don't know if there's any other programs that are doing that currently. Are there?
I don't know.
So again, this is that gap in all the things. Like, we have lots of great services, and we really, this community does a wonderful job in trying to serve everyone's needs. But there's always those cracks, right, where people fall through. She's the part. This program is the glue that kind of closes those cracks and allows people to continue towards success. So a lot of things like she mentioned, some of the things that have been accomplished: winter clothing donations were collected and distributed. We had a very generous community. We put boxes around that you saw the pictures of, and this is some of the items that were collected. We gave away COVID testing. Every person who was encountered that Nicole actually has a one-on-one and works with, she makes sure that they understand what COVID is. Do they want testing? Do they need to get a vaccine? So that's
they want information on it.
They want information, and we were lucky from CAP to get a case of COVID tests, and we gave those almost all out now.
Yeah, they're out now.
Home site application process. So there's a lot of options for housing, including housing vouchers and Section 8, and so home site is another wonderful resource. But you have to apply, and there's steps, and you have to get documentation and things you have to have, and there isn't any. when you're a caseworker, and I ran housing programs, I was in housing programs, worked them as a case manager, ran them. Your job is to focus on the housing. You work on the person, but you can't, fill out applications, meet them in places, navigate the systems. You tell them, go do this and go do that, here's the phone. And that's really all you can do a lot of the time. The folks like at Chapel House, they go through and they do compliance checks in the hotels where the homeless folks are housed. And they try to do what they can, but that's limited to what they can do. And after that, if somebody has a need, they're calling Nicole saying, hey, Nicole, we need you. Can you come down here and help this person? And it's a wonderful opportunity to partner and collaborate with our community partners, and that's actually our mission. She's also done DMV assistance in obtaining an ID, Medicaid transportation number given out, because there are transportation options for folks, but they don't always know what they are, or they don't know how to navigate that. How do you call? Do you know that you should make sure that you get a confirmation number or your ride isn't actually in the system? There are little things like that that can absolutely derail a person. And she also does the quick link free phone service application, because a phone is critical to anybody in this community and in this world, in this world now. And how do you fill out the application? How do you get that phone? And Nicole has done a wonderful job in assisting folks with that.
And I just want to put out there, if they don't have an address, since they're homeless, we have them come to the office.
Yeah,
the
they have to come to
phones.
us. Yeah. So, impact is very important, right? Because the city allocated money for us to be able to do this. So, what you get for your dollars, right? Besides everything that we've talked about, 4 folks obtained employment, 2 people obtained permanent housing, and it's more now, but this is a snapshot. 1 currently has a Section 8 voucher and is looking for a home. 10 people were assisted with Medicaid and SNAP applications. 2 were assisted with those SafeLink phones. 1 individual obtained their government ID. That's a big deal. You have to have your birth certificate or some sort of non-driver ID or driver's license. And most of us think, well, I'll just get on the internet, order whatever, I'll walk down to the DMV, and that is not an option for homeless individuals or folks who don't have an address. It's very challenging. She's done 3 emergency deliveries of food boxes, 7 referrals to CAT Mobile Food Pantry. 4 clients received clothing upon release from jail, and that clothing helped them in their first day on their new job. 3 agencies reached out for information and assistance for their clients. It's and that's, she just said to me today, she gets calls, Cougar Counseling reaches out and knows. We have a great relationship with the library. There's a homeless gentleman that spends every day there, or was spending every day there, and they would call Nicole for advice, and they'd ask her, and she would go down every day that he was
3
there.
3 days a week.
And meet with him.
Yeah.
And that individual is chronically homeless, and that's really mostly a choice for them. But I want to say something that, excuse me, really resonated with me and has actually started me on a path for some of the housing programs I'd like to see come to this community. And Nicole asked him, like, why don't you come in? Why don't you go to the hotel? DSS has a voucher. It wasn't like they weren't going to house him. And his answer was simply, I don't feel welcome. And that's a real issue. That's a real problem. The system is supposed to help folks, but unfortunately, a lot of the time, it sort of re-traumatizes them. When you go into a hotel, there are rules. You and I rent a hotel. If I want my other half to be with me, nobody's going to ask. But in the world of homeless individuals who have their housing paid for, the person that may be the love of your life and your touchstone to reality and stability won't be allowed to be with you because you're not married.
Or don't have a kid in
Or
common.
don't have a kid in common. You're told that if you bring alcohol into the room, you'll be kicked out. If you don't show in by curfew, you'll be kicked out. I mean, I could go on and on. And one of the things is, the very words compliance check. Do any of us have to do a compliance check when we're in a hotel or when we're in our homes or wherever we are, if we rent? These are the things that the system is trying to help, but it's language and a process that just really makes it hard. And when somebody can kind of be by that person and be like, don't give up, just take a breath, we can do this, we can get through this, that has made all the difference. And this is 49 people who prior to this weren't able to get through that. So it's always important to talk money, right? So just kind of giving folks a sense of what's the average cost of services per person. These hotel stays for Code Blue or for folks who are homeless and we don't have any room in the shelter, you gotta house them. You house them in a hotel. The hotel stays are $65 to $120 a night. I can promise you the county tries very, very hard to keep the lowest cost option, but you know, the $65 option is not always there. And that's per night. Food stamps are around $30 to $200 per individual per month, depending. The more they can make, be able to make their own income, then the less they're going to need to rely on that. Cash assistance, if someone has no income, they get about $735 per month, and a couple can receive up to $1,103 a month. But again, $735 doesn't go too far, especially now. Average cost of emergency visit to receive shelter, so if someone comes in like Cold Blue and they're able to get into emergency shelter, it's about $1,668 a month. Remember, this is per person. The average cost of a night in jail for shelter, food, this was our what we looked up. If someone gets arrested, and I'm going to tell you, in the winter, homeless individuals will often do something, not terrible, but enough to be able to get arrested and put in jail so they have a place to sleep and something to eat. And that is not uncommon. And it's around $130.59. But it translates to around $30,000 to $50,000 per person per year. If you do the math and you count the 49 individuals, it's about $1.47 million a year. Now I know this county doesn't spend that much money, but hundreds of thousands, probably, because it's expensive, and this is just shelter. This is just they're being housed. They're given here's your food stamp card. This does not include, let me help you fill out applications. Let me help you find a job. Let me talk to you for a minute while you're freaking out because you're really nervous and you're scared that CPS is going to come take your kids. We can find a solution. None of that comes with those dollars. So our project, and we're hoping that we get to continue, we are currently funded through September 30th, actually probably now through October, with some additional funding that was located. So we're funded through October, and we made this a pilot because we wanted to show the city that this program would have an impact, that we could do something that would make a difference, that would alleviate, gets people off the system, or less on the system, help them find the benefits, find the things they're entitled to, get a job, go to school, whatever the things are they need to do, but getting them off the streets and into not just safe housing with our community partners, but also all the other things that come with that for those social determinants of health. So for the projected annual next year, we need about $42,520 for personnel, and most of that is Nicole's salary. There's a fringe rate, mileage. That's because she drives everywhere to see folks. And the city of Auburn is, big, not huge, but mileage is mileage. I think it's 58.5 cents a mile right now, and it's probably going to go up. Admin is things like, she has a computer and the computer service to run it, her phone, cell phone, internet, and office space, about 50 and 60. Program supplies are things like, and by the way, Nicole works really, really hard in getting things donated. She gets a really good, nice things donated to her. She'll get hats and scarves and gloves, and she'll work out trying to work with our community partners and also area businesses to try to get things that the folks need. But we still have to buy some things. One favorite is the hand warmers. So in the winter it's really cold when you're homeless and you're outside. But she has these really cool hand warmers that she can give, and that one gentleman in particular, just every time she saw him, she would
Never knew my name, just the hand warmer girl.
The hand warmer girl, yes. So the total cost of this is $60,000 a year. Now, if you go back to the cost per person of homelessness, the cost benefit of that is pretty stark. It's pretty intense. We believe that this program is having a really significant impact. She's one person. To be honest, we need two. But for now, this is the cost of one. And we are seeking for, sustainability is a great question. So a couple of things. One is the county is considering possibly looking at trying to fund this through preventative services, but we don't know if they can fit that into the budget. And to be honest, if that would happen, that would be the second person. Because the other thing is Nicole can't go by herself to these things. You have to think of safety, right? So everything she's been doing has been with the very generous assistance of Chapel House, but they are limited. So that makes her limited. I think about what she could do if she had someone that was with her, that she could go under the bridges and all the places, especially this time of year, to the tent city. She could go every day if she had somebody with her, and we could help twice as many people. The other thing is, you know, we're starting to enter into the foray of fundraising. That's a scary area to be in, but we're going to try and hopefully be able to raise some dollars for our programs. And we're going to look at other grants. We get a lot of grants. That's the nature of nonprofits, certainly the nature of our work. And I'm always looking to foundations to see, because a lot of foundations are very much focused on social determinants of health. So, and we are going to look at core services as well, which will hopefully, when we're able to get that up and running, that'll also help for sustainability. So we're not asking you to keep this running for the next 5-10 years, but we are asking to help us through the next year so that hopefully we can continue the success and potentially grow this program to really have an even broader impact. Do you have anything? So thank you so much for your time and your attention. Do you have any questions?
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
So I have a couple of questions. So after having done this for several months, you know, you mentioned the fact that these folks are low income. So I'm conjuring up the image of being homeless and having to get yourself to your job and maybe get your children ready. I know, you know, they still have to go to school. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, you mentioned also that a gentleman was chronically homeless. Would you characterize the homeless population as being, are there several folks that are sort of fell into this, but with a helping hand, their goal is to get back into life, or is it mostly chronic folks, or?
Great question. Nicole's definitely qualified to answer.
So I would say it's probably a good, I don't even want to say 50-50, but I would say probably a good 30% are chronically homeless, and that could just be due to, you know, a nasty divorce that left them with nothing. I mean, they all have their own story. It could be a million things. They didn't pay their rent, now the eviction process started, and they have, that's it, you know. They didn't know how to budget, right? They just blew their money, you know. There's so many different situations. So, you know, and then there are some that, you know, that's just what they know, and that's what they've done. And, you know, and you can't, that's really chronically homeless. You know, they may, I don't necessarily say they prefer to be living in a hotel room, but it's, you know, some of it is just what they know as well. And I think, you know, it.
So I have one more question, and then I just wanted to say something. So my next question is, after having done this for several months, I looked at your website. So have you changed your goals? I mean, it's very hard in the work that both of these agencies do to create a goal, like for a funder that has a list of things you're going to accomplish, because you're not going to know what the next day is going to be like. But are you able to kind of do that and kind of see where what you can do in the next year, and you know, continue to do the work you're doing? But is there are you able to put it in some kind of a structure, like 20% more?
Yeah, so I hold all of the clientele that I work with accountable as well. It's not just you know, I'm going to do all the work and yeah, I just need you to show up. No, it's not like that. Like I very much hold them accountable. But I think, you know, what Mary had said earlier too, sometimes people need to be taken by the hand. And it's not always possible to do that, but some people, you just have to do it. To get them to that point. So they are held accountable, and we do have goals. Housing is always number one, because in order to have a job, you've got to have access to a shower. You've got to, you know, clean clothes, things like that. So housing is always, actually mental health is the first thing we work on. And then we work on the housing piece, and then comes that employment piece. So these goals, you know, it's step by step. I don't just, you know, show up and, you know, I can tell if somebody's ready for employment or not, you know, right. Or if, you know, everybody has a different story.
So you're looking for them to make incremental changes.
Yep.
And as far as, like, you know, the structure, like what could you see as a goal? I think, you know, we would constantly, it's a little hard yet because we haven't had a full year, but we're close. And the other thing is that, you know, the moratorium on evictions lifted, and now we're just starting to see the repercussions. It's a little hard to know fully, but I think we could certainly set up goals to say we'll help 30% more people than we did this year. If we get a second person, it's going to be, you know, we're going to twice that. But absolutely, because the more Nicole does this, and she's starting now to really be well known. She gets people walking in the office, she gets calls, and her cards out there. So we've really established our presence now, and so I think it's getting busier and busier. And you know, we want to help more folks. That's what we're hoping to do, so that you know, the benefit to this community. When somebody's housed, when somebody's fed, when somebody can have a job, they can start to become a contributing member of the community. And I'd say 90% of those folks really do want to do that. But to get there, first they have to know that they have a place to sleep, food to eat, and feel safe, feel welcome, in the words of that gentleman.
So what I wanted to, well, thank you for that. It's a perfect answer, actually. What I just wanted to mention, for both of these organizations, I consider both of these organizations to really be pilot programs. You are in territories nobody's really done before around here that I know of. The way you've connected, I mean, it's very unique. And I don't have to tell any of you about grant writing or those resources because you depend on it, but I just want to remind you that there's a place at the chamber called the Finger Lakes Grants Information Center. Mm-hmm. And once you go in and learn how to access that database, there are foundations all over this country that are interested in helping fund pilot programs that really want to make a change, like the ones that I hear all of you talking about. So I don't work there any longer, but definitely if you have, I know nobody has time. That's what it's like. It sounds great, but who has 2 hours to go do it? Yeah, make your board members do it. You know, I know.
That's a great idea. They're not in the audience.
They're not
right?
here, are
Okay.
they?
Yeah,
No.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, I just wanted to put a plug in for that because I really think, especially, and it's about collaborating. You know what they want. They want to know that you're collaborating, and we're a great community for doing that. So I'm really impressed with your presentation, and it just fits nicely with the previous presentation. So thank you very much again.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Councilor Cuddy.
Yes, I just, less of a question and more of a comment for both Nick's Ride and Cayuga Community Health Network. As Councilor Kent said, you're filling in gaps. You're making connections, gluing already existing agencies and organizations, and making connections with the people that need it the most. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
And we're helping. We're going to be helping.
Thank you.
So thank you for all the hard work you do. And you know, as you know, this being a pilot, I look forward to seeing you continue to do the great work that both of you do. So thank you for your work.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Council.
Thank you, Mayor. As I know you're aware, and the community is too, because it was discussed here, Chapel House is in talks with Housing Visions of Syracuse about building a new facility here in Auburn, because there is a lack of beds in this community. Do you feel, you talked about some of your clients feeling uncomfortable, maybe going to a hotel. Do you think a facility, a large facility, Chapel House, helps with that problem?
I think it does. You know, I think it does. Shelters are really needed, and they're safe places. I've worked in shelters too. It's a long resume, but you know, those are temporary solutions. So it's a good start. Not everyone will feel welcome because there are rules, and they have to be. It's for safety. Sure. When you put a whole bunch of people in one place, you got to have a framework, and you got to have rules, and you got to have some structure, because it's about safety. We're actually also, Housing Visions has committed to 12 units of permanent supportive housing for us, and we're going to create a housing program based on the social determinants of health that are going to, it'll be a little bit less crowded, but it's not emergency housing, this is permanent housing. And the goal is, the whole reason behind this is honestly that one gentleman saying that he never felt welcome, and that's what we hope to achieve. But I think Chapel House They do an excellent job, and I think we definitely need the shelter versus the hotels. In the hotels, there's nobody there. There's just a concierge who's looking for an excuse to kick somebody out.
Sure.
And at the shelter, they have people there, and you know, they do everything they can, but they do have a safe place. They have a person to talk to, and they have food, and they have the ability to maybe, you know, also have their peers around them, folks who are in the same position. So it's an incredible need in this community, and I think, you know, Chapel House is uniquely positioned to be able to do that because they already have a program established, and they desperately need more beds. I think we said, what, there's 122 people right now that are homeless, or?
Oh, no,
No.
they just got the
Oh.
first today, right?
What are their?
Well, I have been a nurse for the past.
Oh, since October, okay,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's not
So
for,
there's
yeah,
usually,
it's a lot.
yeah, it's a lot. I mean, and that's not the same people. Yeah, there are a few repeat folks that cycle through, and like we said, that's because you just gotta keep staying. You gotta give hope. You gotta have hope. You can't give up because you never know when that time that you work with them is the magic time. Is this, you know, is the time that they change. And anybody who's done recovery or worked in behavioral health, you know that you just have to keep trying. But I think that shelter will be a huge asset. And again, our program will work with them, and it'll just have it'll be a little bit easier to find folks and to engage with them. So I think it's very needed for this community.
Well, my understanding is that that shelter in that manner, working through the state system, also provides much needed funding to provide the staff for the proper oversight that you're talking about.
Yes, yeah, and the same thing would be for us. So the Empire State Supportive Housing Initiative is a funding stream from the state that they assign you an oversight organization, mental health, OASIS, OTDA, but that funding is $25,000 per person per year for 5 years, and that provides the program piece, the case management, pays rent, furnishes the apartment, all that. The developer builds the building or redevelops the housing.
Thank you.
All set, counselors? My dad, I don't think there's anyone in the room that remembers my dad, but he's always had sayings. I guess that's where I got him from, but he always had, his favorite was, "There but for the grace of God go I."
Amen.
In both of our groups tonight, it really strikes home. So you do not get the notoriety or a lot of thank yous from folks in our community. But as mayor, and I believe I speak for council, thank you for both groups.
Thank you.
Whatever you do, don't quit.
Never.
Never give in. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilors, we have about 2 more hours of presentation, so let's take a 10-minute break. Is that all right? All right, 10 minutes.
Yes, but very, very briefly.
I'll have to come by and visit. I haven't seen her in a long time. It's good that she's still there, because she's so good. That's a nice location. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything.
All set.
I'll say yes.
You ready? Oh, I'm sorry.
I guess.
I'd like to call us back into order. Next, we have the Shine Theater update by Mr. Brian Bowers. So Jenny, I don't know.
Thank you.
Started yet.
We're saving our claps for when it.
Yeah, for when it really means something. Yeah, I
It all
understand.
depends on what you say.
What you're
I'm,
saying, or
yeah.
answer.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, council members and members of the community. My name is Michael Licata. This is Brian Bowers, and I work with Brian at Bowers Development. And there's some familiar faces here and some that we have not yet met. And what we want to do is give a little bit of context relative to our capabilities, because this project's taken a long time and everybody in the community wants it to be done, including us, probably more so than you, because nothing is as unattractive to a developer as a vacant building, except for when it's his vacant building. That's the worst. We are in full mode of restoration of this project. We're moving it forward. And one of the things that struck me about the presentations this evening that I thought was great is that these folks restore lives, every one of those folks, and they're heroes, and I wish they were all still here so I could say that. And when you restore a life, you restore a piece of the community, and that is invaluable and infinitely measurable. And in our small way, and I wouldn't equate what we do with what they do, we're not on the same level, but in our way, when we restore a building, and we restore a lot of them, we help restore a piece of the community. So we're kind of glad to be in that company, if that helps understand what it is that we do. So we wanted, by way of introduction, to show you what some of our projects have been. Then we'll bring you up to speed on what's going on at the Shines and where we've gone from the very beginning to where we are now. All right? So this is very fast. This project is a project, did I go one too far? No, good. This is a project in Canastota, New York. It was a contaminated piece of property. It was on 9 acres. Actually, it's more than 9 acres, 14, right? And this structure, you could see right through. You could drive through it. This is what's there now, and it's Dutchland Plastics, and there are 100 jobs that are in this community manufacturing plastic. Yeti coolers are made here, at least some of them are made at this location. And those 100 jobs, in economic development terms, are manufacturing jobs. Every time a job comes to a community, another job self-creates within that community to support it. Manufacturing jobs are 5 to 1. So there are an additional 500 jobs in that small community were helped self-created because of this project. We're proud to be part of that. Oh, that's us with the mayor. Everybody happy about cutting the ribbon at Dutchland Plastics. This is one of my favorite. This building on the left, the security building in Utica, New York, was scheduled for demolition. It was coming down. It was going to cost the city $500,000 to remove this contaminated building. The 5th floor had 2 feet of pigeon droppings because it had accumulated. It had been vacant for 14 years. Brian went through the building, and one of our key core competencies is taking environmentally contaminated properties and distressed properties and bringing them back to life. So this is now a Class A office building, and Legal Aid Society is the sole tenant in the building on the right. So you can see how much better it looks. And it's another 40 attorneys who are now in downtown Utica working and consuming services, consuming products, and bringing additional jobs into that area. So another thing, yeah, we're very proud of that. Landmark Society of Greater Utica recognizes directly for our efforts and not knocking that building down. There's another project in Utica, the GE manufacturing facility. They used to make radios in that spot. This is current day. We've got this location under construction. We've actually talked with an international chemical company who's looking to put 50 jobs at that location. We're very close to closing that deal too. This, in terms of our experience with theaters a little bit, this is the New Century Club. That building is the second oldest women's club in the United States. Susan B. Anthony spoke here. Amelia Earhart visited. This is their auditorium area. That golden section, golden brick section, is this. It was filled with debris. It had been coming down. We almost lost this building due to the fact that the building next door had water coming in from the gutter system hitting the foundation. We were about 3 months away from it just imploding on itself. This was also scheduled for demolition, and now it's an under construction renovation project. This is the building you saw in the beginning. This is the Kempf building. It was built in, what was it, 1915, all right. And this is the restoration plan that we have for it. There'll be 38 units up top and 7 storefronts. We already have a bank, an engineering firm, a cafe, a fitness firm, high-end fitness firm, and pre-orders for the 38 micro units above. This is another project in Utica that we're taking down because that whole area was contaminated. It used to be an industrial laundry facility. Excuse me. This is another project in Utica that's under restoration. If you can, I'm standing in your way. There's a supermarket at one end. It used to be a loan collection service. They lost all those jobs when you could process loans through the internet, and we're talking with another medical system to take that space as well. This is a business park that we have in Syracuse, 84 acres, also contaminated. We are remediating the site as we speak, and again, in this climate of distribution warehouse space, this has become a very popular location, but it wouldn't have been. Folks from the county didn't even know they had this park here because of the contamination. No one would take it on. No one would even attempt to. But because we have those level of competencies, we were not afraid of it. This is another retail location that's going to be turned. This is one of our favorites. This is downtown Syracuse. This used to be a cold storage facility that's coming down. These are the actual views from that roof. And we're going to turn this into apartments as well as a Class A office facility. Okay? Also, another project in Rome that was a radiator manufacturer, and a lot of the contaminants had leaked into the ground. It's right on the major thoroughfare coming into the town. Did something happen? No. All right. And it had been an eyesore for years. We met with the mayor and the team up in Rome, and they said, if you can come in and help us out here, we'd be very grateful, and we did. So we're in the process of turning that into a retail site. As far as what we've done up to date at the Shines Theater, I can't read that. Right. I can do that. Can everybody read that at all? All right. Better eyesight than me. All right. Work completed to date. And it doesn't look it. It's like growing bamboo. The root systems for bamboo grow for 5 years before you see a shoot. Just, we'll call it the bamboo theater at some point. But it's really, a lot of work has already gone on. Asbestos abatement is done. Lead abatement is done. Miscellaneous special universal waste removals had to get taken care of. We've replaced the roof. Selective demolition activities inside. The seats inside the theater, for those of you who do not know, were rusted and encrusted with mold and mildew, and we got special permission from State Historic Preservation Office to remove them. So they are removed, and we'll be putting in Coliseum Coliseum seating in the future. Masonry repair and repointing the sidings of the building, the exterior architectural design. So a lot of the work, that building had been exposed to the elements for a long time, and a lot of the work that we've done thus far was to clean it and to secure it, to button up the roof, the foundation, and so some of the rodents and raccoons actually scared poor Chuck Taylor to death almost once he went in. There was a raccoon in the hall. So we had to secure the building, and we have. All right. Setbacks we've had with this project, just like everybody else, COVID-19 and the public gathering spaces restriction that came out of Albany. We were not allowed to, all of us remember, we couldn't meet in public places. When you finish a project and it's vacant for prolonged periods of time, it deteriorates faster than an occupied project. We halted construction of the project for that reason. We had no idea when we were all going to be coming back. But we're happy to say it's right back on schedule. We had 2 banks, both giving us verbal commitments to finance the project. Both walked away from it during the COVID because of the aforementioned issue. We don't know when people are going to be coming back, going out, seeing movies, even if they ever will. Sorry guys, we can't fund you. It would have been very easy for us to throw the keys back and say, hey, we can't get funded. We did not, and we will not. We'll finish this project one way or another. But that was another one of those setbacks. And our architectural service provider fell way behind schedule, and when we thought after 3 months certain construction drawings had been completed, we learned to our fury that they hadn't been started. So these are things that you encounter in real estate development, and we encountered them. So the recent project updates are, we have received a financing commitment. Great news. We have received and awarded engineering services. M&E Engineering will be doing that. We've received and awarded acoustical engineering services. Jaffe Holden out of Boston. We are negotiating architectural services and impending an award. We've received quotes for marquee restoration, and that's what we get so many calls on. Everybody wants that marquee restored, and we have. Did you award that?
No, we're going to.
We're close. We're very close. We're down to 2 vendors. What they're going to do, though, so nobody freak out, they're going to remove whichever one we go with. They remove the marquee. They bring it to their place. Sounds like the Grinch. I'll take it down here and I'll fix it up there. That's what they're going to do, and then it'll come back. So once you see that marquee come down.
Myself and council just got a big headache when you say you're going to take it down. So.
Just the marquee. Just the marquee, not the building.
That's enough.
All right? Sorry. So that's an impending award. So our anticipated schedule, the architectural and engineering services will be completed over the next 3 months. Construction work will begin after Labor Day. The marquee will be removed, restored over the fall and the winter months, and we anticipate opening the theater fall of 2023. You know, Shines Day is September 12th. That's our target, to be able to open on that day. Will we hit it? We'll see. But that is everything that we're striving for right now. So, God forbid another pandemic or anything of that nature, we are back on schedule, intending to complete this project within a little over a year from today. All right? Any questions?
Councilors?
Okay, this is where Brian stands up.
How
you doing?
Good, thanks.
How much money to date do you have in the project right now?
We
Just
spent
roughly.
a little over $1 million. And then the dollars to complete are roughly 5.
5 more million?
Correct.
Thank you.
What is the plan long-term for the theater?
It's not going to operate as a performing arts theater anymore. It'll be more of like a multi-purpose venue. Comedy shows, concerts, movies. You know, we want to try to obviously get people in there, you know, get as much activity as possible, you know, rather than just have it be a select audience.
And will your company run that, or are you going to contract somebody else out to do it?
Unfortunately, you have pre-COVID and post-COVID. So pre-COVID, we actually had 6 different operators that were interested. Everybody took a substantial hit. So we're talking with some of them again. We're also talking to some other theaters about possibly doing a collaboration, you know, with us, where you go to one theater, you know, one night, come to another theater the next. So we're exploring a lot of different options.
And in terms of the marquee restoration, will you reconstruct the blade that was in place at one time?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Are you looking to make a profit on that building? I mean, when you say you spent $1 million, you need $5 million, so you need $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard to get $6 million back, isn't it?
We do have certain grants, you know, that we've received. We also have tax credits, you know, that we're taking advantage of. So, you know, at the end, the pro forma does work. You know, we've actually explored, and I think it's going to be a great use of the building, you know, actually doing weddings. You know, will actually take place there as well.
Sounds good.
Can I ask one more question?
Please.
I understand delays happen, you've explained everything. I think that's what the public really wanted to hear, you know, what was the plan long-term? Why is it taking this long to get here? I think every reason you've given is understandable. We were in very uncertain times. And I understand these things happen even in uncertain times, right? It's development, there's delays. I guess what I would ask, you know, you've established a timeline. If for some reason you can't meet that timeline, if you could come back and just kind of update us and update the public again, I think that the transparency part of it would go a long way throughout the community for them to understand. Yeah, we're anticipating fall of 2023, but we're a couple months behind schedule. This is why.
Sure. Yeah, we'd actually like to volunteer now to come back October, November. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of progress, you know, by that point. We hope to share a lot more information.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
We'd certainly be glad to have one of our council meetings once you're reopened. So, no pressure.
Very reasonable rates.
You haven't got our bill for tonight, have you?
I think we already paid in advance.
Yeah, checks in the mail. Anything else, Councilor? Gentlemen, thank you for being with us.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We have to leave, I possibly get to do a son's baseball game. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a good excuse. Go to his son's baseball game and get out of here too.
Need to use it more often.
Next presentation, proposed recreational program for the summer of 2022 with Meg Grumley. Grumley, I'm sorry.
Yes, no problem.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. A little happier that there's less people to talk in front of, so it lightens the load a little bit. But I'm Jamie Swagler. I own a gym in town, Swagler Strength Performance, for going on 11 years now. The goal of that gym was to impact people in a positive way. I enjoy sports, working with the youth, and that's kind of how I got connected with Brian, and we created this organization, CNY Sports Management. Last year was our first year. We ran multiple programs: basketball, football, baseball. Probably had over 200 kids between 6 and 13 years old participate last summer. We utilized Falcon Park, some of the other city parks for this purpose. Through talking to Jeff, we realized that there was a lot of money and time invested in these parks, so we wanted to utilize them, bring the youth to these parks and see what's available for them. So we were able to provide camps, programming, to work well with the city and take advantage of the renovations and time and effort put into the parks. So this year, we're trying to elaborate on that and almost take a different approach and entertain the other side, the kids that aren't as involved in athletics. I found some stats. There's roughly 50% of kids play sports year-round. There's the other 50% that don't. Youth sports is getting more and more competitive, whether it be just City League being more competitive or travel teams, AAU, whatever the case may be. And I think that's unfortunately turned into a deterrent for some kids to go out for sports out of fear of rejection or the pressure of making the team or not being able to play with their friends because they're not as good or whatever the case may be, or they're just not interested in sports. So there's not a ton of programs out there for them, especially I feel like since COVID happened. Opportunities are fewer and fewer for our youth, and especially after listening to previous presenters, they're kind of on the back end of things, and I was trying to think of if we can be on the front of things and stay more proactive with our youth, hopefully create more opportunities for them, so they can feel like they're a part of something, maybe find their niche in life, and hopefully that we can be the city included, and we can provide opportunities to help invest in our future and our youth. So that's kind of our angle this year. We still have some leagues and more competitive stuff going, but this has been our focus and try to invest our time and energy this summer in developing broader programs. Meg, I'll let you talk about some of the academic stuff.
Hi, I'm Meg Gremley. I am a kindergarten teacher at Herman Ave, and I have been brought together with Jamie and Brian. We have a vested interest in the youth of our city, and we feel very strongly that we want to engage our children in programming this summer. The former summer rec program was very successful. It had been stopped, and we would like to revitalize that to give the youth educationally stimulating and a structured environment to spend some time away from technology and engaged with their peers with some strong leadership role models to look to. So one of the programs would be art, literacy, music. So we've got some proposed offerings, music lessons led by Perform for Purpose, arts and crafts activities, getting some community service projects going, story time and literacy activities, as well as just some board games, card games, just it's for engagement purposes. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Brian broke it.
Oh, there you go. Okay, back one more. Okay, you want to talk about?
So we've made some connections with some other organizations that are willing to get involved, like Meg mentioned. This is more in the activity-based world or sports. We plan on having through the gym. I've been able to work with kids that have gone through high school and college now, and some of them are out of college, so they're able to come back. Some have been, influential members in the community at their age level, and some kids maybe look up to them, so they're offering their services, and I know that they're motivated and want to give back to the community. So I feel like having those pieces in place are valuable things that also just builds the culture that we're trying to work on here with, giving back to the community and just being great role models for the youth nowadays, because there's so many distractions, so many different ways that these kids can go, and if we can keep them too busy to get distracted with other stuff, I think that'd be the better alternative. But again, we want to do basketball, football, those types of activities on a less intimidating level where they can just be kids and have fun. Wiffle ball, kickball, just fun games that I used to enjoy as a kid, and I know that not all kids have these easy, fun opportunities to do these things without feeling like they're pressured to, kick the ball every time. If they miss it, it's okay. If you don't get on base or if you get out, we just want to create a fun environment for kids to be kids and enjoy their summer, keep them busy, keep them off their tablets, their phones. And again, since COVID, I feel like through talking to some teachers and parents, the social atmosphere, it's not the same as it used to be. Some kids lost, valuable time developing those relationships and social skills. So that's another aspect we want to try to engage in and build that.
Another offering would be culinary arts. Fran and Nick Deloya are the brainchild of this, and they have interest in kind of collaborating together with the summer rec program. Nick is from Auburn and lived in Chicago as a chef. He ran summer culinary arts activities for children, so he is modeling some of these ideas that you can see after those. These would be along at the sites that we have proposed, but also they would be interested in doing some pop-up sites at the Auburn Housing Authority and West End streets, or West End, sorry, parks, and Booker T. Washington. So not the three main sites that we were proposing were Casey Park, Clifford Park, and Bradford. They would partner at those, but also included some of the other parks. So I think we missed the slide of our, that we were proposing a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoons from 1 to 5, starting July 5th and running for 6 weeks. So we're asking the support of the Auburn City Council to provide funding to run a summer recreation program for the children in our city. This would be our first year with the plan to make it bigger and better every year.
I'm the mouse, Brian Muldrow. So. No, I just wanted to say that Jamie and I had a lot of success with CNY Sports, and you know, it's growing, and it's gotten to a point where it pretty much is a in-town travel team. And we noticed there's other kids that, you know, like he said, that, you know, don't want that type of competitiveness. And you know, so we thought this would be a good move, and then also keep the parks, get kids at the parks again, and get them outside, get them off the computer games. We all know what type of engagement it takes to keep kids from their minds from wandering, and so we decided to expand the program. We met Megan. It's going to be a perfect partnership. She brought a lot of points that it's a lot of tools that Jamie and I don't specialize in as far as being an educator. And you know, I've also, you know, reached out to some of the literacy people to help with these kids academically as well. So we can have a lot of opportunities to make these kids engaged for these 6 to 8 weeks. So we would love your support. The only thing I would request is that we're getting to the point now, if we're going to start, we got to really have you guys see if you guys can move quickly. And I know that's a lot, but it's because we're beginning into the summer now. So we like your support. Thank you.
Councilor Cuddy, go ahead.
Yes, all of you, thank you for your presentation. As you were presenting, I was taken back to my youth at the Y Field, Clifford Park, where I would go, and there would be a park director, and there would be checkers, and there would be kickball, and there would be things for neighborhood children to do. And listening to what you've described brought me back to that time. And it is something that when I was going door to door was told to me over and over again by citizens that we need something for the kids to do. We need something for the kids to do. And this is such a great idea. I know this year is a pilot, and I do have a couple questions. Which parks are these going to happen at? I know that Ms. Gremley said Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 1 to 5 p.m. Which parks?
So Clifford Park, because Bradford, and we thought about Casey. The reason being because there was so much expenditure put in some of those parks that we just want to make sure they're utilized. And by us going to these parks and putting on these type of activities, eventually kids naturally will gravitate to those parks.
Mm-hmm. And they're and again, it's like the first year, so we want to. You don't want to like bite off more than you can chew. But this is, I would say, they're good. Those are good examples because they are recently renovated parks. There's 3 of you. There's 3 parks. How are you going to staff them? I'll just kind of give you a sense. When the city ran the programs, there would be like high school high school students or people that are like first or second year in college that are there for the kids to kind of like, you know, in fact, I think even at Wasco, they have a similar situation where kids show up and they play games and whatnot.
Yeah.
How are these gonna be staffed, and how much is their day structured, and how much day, and equally valuable, how much is their day unstructured too? Because one of the things I did like about the, you know, when I was young, there was craft day, there was set times, but then the other part of the day was just kind of like whatever. Hey, let's play tetherball, let's play kickball. Can you give me a little sense of
I could.
and structure?
So staffing. So we're going to be contracting probably kids that are straightly out of high school or seniors. One of the things that Megan did help us with was she has a teacher that is also going to be committed to helping us out as well. So what ideally there would be two staff members, and then we would have the teacher as well coming in. As far as structure, because, you know, again, I'm giving all the kudos to Megan, but she recently emailed me something that you educators are familiar with, a lesson plan, right? So we have a lesson plan that we're going to try to teach some of those young adults how to run the park, so they'll get learning experience as well. And also, the reason why there's more than one staff is because we want supervised for those other kids that will have, like, you know, to be able to, you know, have a little more freedom and not as such a structure.
So you're saying at each site there will be
two with, and we can't really commit because we don't have a commitment, but I believe that, yeah.
It wouldn't be all three. One, like Tuesday would be at Bradford Street.
Gotcha.
Katie Clifford Park, and Thursday at Casey Park with 2 to 3 staff, along with like supervisors from 1 to 5. But then on Wednesdays, music lesson might be from 3 to Perform for Purpose might be coming in from 3 to 4. So that would be a structured for the kids that wanted to participate. But then from 4 to 5, unstructured time of maybe you're gonna go play kickball, playground time, arts and crafts bin.
But there will be
staff
that kind of like just
managing,
supervise. So,
and some of our partnership bring their own staff. Like, you know, I'm sure Jim would be there with, right? So we'll still have 2 people to help with other activities.
I'm for it. I gotta just understanding it's a pilot, and we want to see. And I guess the key is how we can get this out to the public, you know, so that parents know, like, on certain dates, this is what it's going to be. Let them know it is a pilot program. You know,
so we've thought about that, right? So, you know, obviously we have our website, you know, with CNY Sports, and we have a portal of people we can send that out to. But we're also hoping that the city will help us as well by posting on their website. Being an educator, before the school ends, hopefully we can get this done before the school ends. We can at least get those schedules out to the parents, you know.
Calendars sent out before the last day of school, so every child is going home with a piece of paper.
And you have that. You have at least the calendar set to go.
Yeah, we
now?
do.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. All right, good. Yeah, it's got my blessing.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Swagler, Ms. Gremley, Legislator Muldrow, thank you for taking the time to be here tonight. Ms. Gremley, you, I think, inboxed me a couple years ago.
Yes.
So thank you for being persistent.
Sure.
Couple questions. What are we looking at dollar amount that you're asking from us?
So we were looking for 40,000, and one of the reasons why we do that, because, you know, we're going to have some volunteer not-for-profits, but to really get them engaged, you know, obviously we got to employ staff. Our time's valuable, and we're going to also we're going to do donations back to them for participating. So that's pretty much the ask.
Okay. And is there a cost to the participants?
Zero cost to every participant.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor.
So you're a pilot program, so how are you going to measure your success?
So we're going to measure success by when we're going to obviously have a sign-in sheet, right? And just to keep track of it, you know, the amount of, and also the engagement from the parents if they're dropping their kid off, whatever. We're going to try to get them to engage either through our website, which our portal can handle. I imagine, ideally, there'll be a laptop or some type of surface device where we can plug their information in, just so we can see the engagement, so we can interact with them. So that's how we're going to measure it, the volume as well as the feedback.
So I would suggest maybe even do some kind of a really simple survey, like a before and after thing. Even with the children, you could do that. Or the observational, you know, your teacher, you know exactly.
Yeah, great idea. But if we can collect their data, right? We can have access to that, and as this program is going, you know, we can engage with council to tell them what we're doing and with the feedback we have thus far.
Because I think if we can fund it and you go through this year, and then we'll want to know, like, well, other than anecdotal, how did it go? So thank you. I think it's a great idea.
Councilor Castro, please.
So no child is charged for any of these programs?
Zero.
So nobody.
And matter of fact, we rent the field down at Casey Park, and there was a charge for that. We moved all of our programming to another Booker T. Washington because there was a charge for that because of certain issues. But we reduced the charge over 50% because we know there might be kids that might get confused. So there's no charge to the people at the playgrounds. At our playgrounds, there's no charge. Zero.
So basically, no child is denied for.
Nobody's gonna be denied.
Thank you.
All set, Council?
All set, thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? I have one quick question. Residency and ages. You may have covered that and I didn't catch it.
So, I skipped this guy.
Did you say ages? Yeah. I'm sorry. So we were targeting ages 6 to 12.
6 to 12, all right. I have 2 grandchildren live in Weedsport and 2 in Marcellus. I'm asking as a grandfather right now.
We'll make an exception.
I couldn't hear, I'm sorry.
We'll make an exception.
No, please don't, please. Help me, don't help me. You're not restricted to city residents?
No, I think that this program, to not be confused, is for city residents, but we're not denying anybody. Okay. So if somebody from Marcellus drops in and wants to participate, there's absolutely no way we're going to deny it. But the program is structured, and I think a successful program would be if we have a high percentage of city kids. So if we got like a 90% city kids, then I'd be happy with that. But the opposite would be if we would learn that we have to get the message out better to the city Auburn if it's lower. So I think that our goal is to have 90% city residents.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else, councilors? Mr. Dygert, council seems to be on board with this. What are the next steps?
We'll work with the group there to do all the legal things that we need to do.
Can I ask a question?
Insurance and things like that, trying to figure out all those.
Yeah, so right now we have insurance registered with the city. We've had, because we had other programs, they're pretty much familiar with our insurance. I believe it's on file, but we can provide that.
When would the start date be again?
The target start date was July 5th.
Okay, so we'd have to try to get a resolution before council for next week. So I'd have to get an agreement by then.
Would you want to repeat? I don't know if they heard you.
So in terms of timing, we would have to put a resolution for consideration and vote by council for next Thursday, which would mean I would need to do it tomorrow. So I would need some details so I can be in touch, hopefully with one of you or all of you, to get all of that.
We might need to push the start date off.
Yeah,
we might need to push the target start date off a week. if it's just going to be very tight to try to get everything in order if we push the target start date off till the following Tuesday. I don't know if that would change anything.
I think Stacy's willing to stay as late as she needs to tonight.
You're not
I
going home,
just
are you?
sleep in my
So,
office. It's okay.
What I think what Megan says, we're flexible, but you know, if you want to just, you know, like, we can communicate with you tomorrow to see, like, which, you know, we want to be fair to you as well, but we're running out of time here.
Well, and that was my concern. I don't want you to be running out of time. And like you said, summer is actually starting.
Yeah.
Council does have one more meeting this month, which is June 23rd, I believe. It is a work session, but if council is agreeable to bringing a reso, then that would give us another week.
We've done it before, as long as council.
So.
Yeah, I mean, this is time pressing, you know, but yeah, whenever, as long as you get your ducks in a row, you know, as you know, the Corporation Council just wants to accommodate you. So whenever you're set, just, you know, work with her, and, you know, the resolution will be on the agenda.
So we would have to wait, and just for clarification, wait to get information out to children until.
Can I suggest this? And counselors, I don't hear anyone opposed to this, so that would be the first step, to have legal counsel work with the city manager's office. Maybe at that time we can have a timeline, proposed timeline, so which would be, we can work it out between yourselves and ourselves, so we can put there's many hurdles we have to go over, as I'm sure you do. But I'd rather take our time and do it right the first time, and then have everything exact. Is that agreeable, Counselor?
When actually is the day that you would need to put this in their backpacks before they go home?
The last day of school is June 22nd.
June 22nd, okay. So I think you need to know that it's going to happen by a couple days before that.
If possible, yes.
We can work on the details. Over the next couple of days, we can work on the details.
We can get it done. We'll work
Okay.
with you and get it done.
Super, thank you.
Is that agreeable, Counsel? Counselor?
Yeah, just one other question.
Please.
Just to back up a little bit, are you utilizing Falcon Park you did last year?
We use Falcon Park, Highland Stadium, Casey Park, and just about every other park in the city.
And you were charged to use these facilities?
Yes.
So we know, right, we know based on conversations with Mr. Swagler and Mr. Muldrow that they ran a program last year as an enterprise of sorts, that it was successful. They were able to make that successful. So I think what they're really looking to do is transfer that experience that they had last year into something that's more of a city-sponsored thing this year, and expand into multiple activities, not just sporting activities. Is that fairly accurate?
What we did was we found a demand. Like, we found an interest, we found activity, we found engagement, and it didn't fit everybody. So, not to knock our program, it's still a great program, and people love it. But this is something that we could pass on to the city residents, and everybody could have opportunity to participate.
The only reason I asked is, it sounds like such a great program. Why are we charging them to use the facilities? I mean,
that's not what.
You could lean up and say that in the microphone. Just get a little closer, because I couldn't really hear you. Lean up all the way.
I gotta wait and see what they say, then I'll lean up.
That's the difference between a for-profit.
Yeah, that one is, we actually charge kids, but that's and we didn't really know. Like, we started during COVID, so when COVID hit, we were going all the way out to Camillus, and we sponsored a team, and one day at the gym, Jamie came up with this idea, and we were just trying to find out what the other leagues did, like such as the other community leagues. So we just modeled that pilot. But as of right now, that's a great question, but I think that's another question for another day with this particular thing is for, this particular product is for the city at no charge.
Right, but you're here asking us for money.
Yeah.
So can we offset and give you services
Yeah.
in lieu of?
Well, they're two different things.
They're
I don't
two different
wanna muddy
things.
I don't want to muddy, because the ones for more, I would say this, the enterprising for profit is the competitive
Yeah,
element.
it's a competitive, it has to
So
be a
it's
term.
different. And
Yeah.
then what they're offering is more kind of like a.
Yeah, recreation.
Just a recreational, there may be some kickball games, but it's like a pickup
But
game
it-
rather than a
But it's
team.
not also kickball, it's also could be skill setting.
Yeah.
So Jamie brought this up to me the other day, yesterday, and like the culinary, like we could be introducing somebody to a field. You know, we could be introducing them to new ideals of thinking. So I think that like there's two separate I will come back next Tuesday and we could talk about that, but this right here is specifically for engaging kids, seeing what their interests are, and it is a pilot moment. And there is with the money, it will help us compensate some of the other because we really want them to come there and invest their time, you know. So.
Thank you.
Councilor Castro, you good?
All set, sir.
Everybody's all set? You all set to the stage, sir? We only had a Major League ball player in the area to come and draw the crowd. Well, if only we had that. So.
Well, I will tell you that my son followed me and probably hoping to bump into him, and he got the wrong Locastro. but we could possibly do that. It would be really nice.
I think I know somebody we can hook up with.
excellent.
All set, folks?
Thank you.
All right, thanks. We'll leave you to communicate with staff here.
Super. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Other business from the council? Counselor? Counselor Kent, please.
Came up fast. So I just wanted to mention a couple of things. The first thing is I noticed we have a new smoke shop. I think we mentioned it before, or somebody mentioned it. We have a new smoke shop opening up soon, and this is a concern because it seems like there's a new one every few months, and I understand why. It is associated with the change in cannabis laws for New York State. I get that. But I think that we need to, there's a way for us to put the brakes on, I'd love to see us maybe consider a moratorium so that we can really look at this situation. And I did a little research on my own, and I found another community had experienced similar concerns, and in some of the language they used, I couldn't say it better, but I feel that the city has an obligation to protect and preserve the public health, welfare, and safety of our citizens, as well as protect the value, use, and enjoyment of property within the city. I just want to make sure we're able to do that as we allow these entrepreneurs that have a right to run a business, just make sure that we're considering our responsibilities. So I just wanted to mention that.
Same subject, Counselor?
Same subject.
Please.
I support Councilor Kent's recommendation for a moratorium, especially since we're considering like updating the code. I mean, that was brought to us last week, so that gives us time to really, consider that. It was meant. We even talked about the subject as far as certain establishments having proximity to schools, proximity to churches. There's a lot of things that we need to consider, especially with the frequency and the time that they're opening. So I just want to show support for Councilor Kent's suggestion of a moratorium.
Mr. Duggar, could we ask you through staff to come up with some ideas, proposals in regards to what Councilor Kent is referring to?
Council's already working on it.
Yep, Mayor, so thanks to Councilor Kent's email earlier this week, we are already looking into it and hope to have something for council to consider soon.
I totally agree with everything we discussed. I just don't want to get too close to this store's grand opening or whatever, and there's some hurdles we can get over, and there's some we can't.
So the imposition of a moratorium can happen fairly quickly. We know this. We did this with respect to cell towers years ago when I first started with the city, and John Rossi was corporation counsel. And the reason behind it is so that the city has time to update its local code, its city code, its laws, because we do have, like Councilor Kent said, we have an obligation to make sure that those laws protect the health and welfare of the citizens.
Absolutely. Is that agreeable, Council?
Yes, thank you.
Everybody's good with that? All right. Thank you.
One other thing, please. So a couple of weeks ago, Councilor Giannettino talked about the Owasco Lake watershed rules and regulations that were created over 2 to 3 years, were passed by this body in October of 2020. We were waiting to hear, and I think it was within a couple of days, that that there was a letter received. You were copied on it, Mayor. And so I forwarded this email earlier. There is a new committee being formed, and it's going to include representation from New York State Department of Health, Department of Conservation, Ag and Markets, Department of State, New York State DOT, the town of Owasco, the city of Auburn, and they are going to, they've reached out to, New York State Department of Health has reached out to the city of Auburn regarding the draft rules, and through the county, through Elaine O'Connor, and Mr. Jensen, Seth Jensen, is going to be representing the city of Auburn, so he will speak for us and represent our concerns on that committee. I just wanted to let folks know that's the latest. I don't think they have set a meeting yet, but so that's where that stands. So we will be represented.
Councilor, the night after we had our discussion here on the floor, I received an email later, or overnight, in regards to what you're referring to. Figuring that it was hit the news and everything already, so everybody's playing cover up now. I contacted Councilor Giannettino, asked him if he would contact this individual. Contacted me. Yeah. Jim, anybody in this council is more versed in everything going on there, but Councilor Giannettino did contact him, and
yeah, and that's what the gentleman, he was an external affairs representative for, I think, the Department of Health, and he basically said that they were going to form this committee, and he assured me that this was not a redo, that they recognized the work had been done. It was more of a review of where they're at in the process and to bring up any concerns that they have.
so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I won't say anything. That's it. I was just thinking out loud.
Okay.
Anything else on? I do have something to bring up, but
All right, let's go this way. Anyone else want to talk about Owasco Lake? The floor is yours, Councilor.
Yes, so thank you, Mayor. I sent out an email of a draft resolution that Dr. Walt Aikman and myself had written, and just wanted to put that up for consideration for you all to perhaps vote on next week. And I know that, Mayor, you wanted Corporation Council to look it over, and as long as the language works, within the confines of a memorialization, if that could be brought forth next week. Next week's a voting meeting, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
it is on the agenda. I worked with the city clerk today, and it should be on for next week.
All right, great, thank you.
It is amended, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, very good. All set.
Thank you, Mayor. Yep, thank you, Corporation Council.
Anything else? Mr. Duggar said he didn't need an executive session tonight. So. Do we have a request for executive session?
One brief item, Mayor, made confidential under attorney-client privilege.
Very well. Entertain a motion for executive session.
Is there public to be heard?
I would ask you to hold off 1 second, Counselor. We have our second public to be heard. Is there anyone desiring to be heard? You know Mike Quill, it's getting near that time. So we have a motion for executive session, and do we have a second? Very good. Call the roll, please.
Motion for executive session, 7:22 PM. Councilor Kent?
Yes.
Councilor Giannettino?
Aye.
Councilor Cuddy?
Yes.
Councilor Locastro?
Yes.
And Mayor Quill.
Aye. We're in recess for executive session.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Good.
They're going